We are live from the Pentagon this morning. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth just wrapping up a press conference there on Operation Epic Fury. We will have a live report with Heather Mullins in just moments. The topics: Operation Epic Fury, unidentified drones caught flying over an Army base housing Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. That's new from overnight. Who's watching them? We will look into those suspicious drones. That's all coming up. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm Vanessa Broussard. We start today with the Save America Act. The Senate locked in a major fight over a Trump-backed bill that would require proof of U.S. citizenship to register to vote, along with photo ID at the ballot box. It passed a procedural vote this week, but it still needs 60 votes to clear the Senate, and Democrats are lining up against it. They're all running from our reporters. Allison Steinberg is on Capitol Hill with more.
Hello, everyone. Allison Steinberg here with LINDELLTV. We are outside of Congress as the Senate is behind me currently debating the Save America Act. This, of course, is the most critical election security legislation we've seen to date. And despite the fact that 85% of Americans support this legislation, they support voter identification, Democrats are doing everything imaginable to try to stop this bill from passing. We just heard from a number of Democrat senators who came out in full opposition to the bill, going so far as to spread blatant lies about the bill that are just not true. And then, of course, you have all the Democrat supporters who are out in full force today echoing these lies. I think you may call them paid agitators, paid Democrat rally goers. I'll let you be the judge of that for yourself. But take a listen. We were here covering this event today. Big press conference right here outside of Congress, and no shortage of entertainment. Enjoy.
No Jim Crow 2.0. No Jim Crow 2.0. And why the right wing is so angry we call it Jim Crow? Because they know it's true.
Do you guys want to explain why you want to reject the SAVE Act, why you're opposed to securing American elections?
Absolutely, because that would affect me and my child. My child's trans.
This bill would force transgender voters to present documents that may not reflect who they are.
It's pretty obvious that a lot of women will be discouraged to vote and actually unable to vote.
Well, if you're an American citizen, it shouldn't be a problem, right? This is mainly trying to target illegals voting in American elections. Do you think that's not a problem?
We have data over and over again showing that is not a problem in our elections. Again, Mike Lee is leading this bill. Republican election officials just did a review of 2.1 million voters on the rolls there, and they did not find a single instance of non-citizen voting, and he's in the Capitol today pushing this bill.
About 20 million illegals let in under the Biden administration.
But they are. But they can't. My dad was an illegal immigrant, became legal. He waited until he became a legal citizen before he could vote. That's not true. That's absolutely false.
It's a false narrative.
And it's very.
There's absolutely zero illegals voting in American elections.
There are no illegals voting.
The bottom line is this bill prevents American citizens from voting. Thank you.
Where's your evidence of voter fraud?
Well, I'm just asking if you're at all concerned about it.
Show me your evidence of voter fraud.
This is not a voter ID bill, period.
This legislation would throw off 69 million women off the voter rolls. You tell me how that's fair. That's not fair.
This is not a voter ID bill. It's a bait and switch bill. Because while they call it a voter ID bill, the language of the bill says, your driver's license, that's not good enough to get you into the polling place.
There's election fraud actively happening in the state of California, and you're opposed to the Save America Act. Can you explain why?
He made his point very clear just now.
This particular crazy act will actually harm and hurt rural communities, people with disabilities, other low-income people, other people of color. So on the SAVE Act, we fight back.
We are talking about around 3.3 million eligible trans voters who could be turned away from our most sacred right.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
You should live.
LINDELLTV.
Oh.
What's funny about that?
Well, polls show that Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly support the Save America Act. Americans want secure elections, no matter what party they're with. Only a few who may not fully understand it don't want secure elections. Our Kira Castronova went out into neighborhoods asking everyday Americans their thoughts.
After hearing that a large number of Democrats support voter ID and the Save America Act, I wanted to test that myself. So I went into the heart of deep blue Washington, D.C. to talk to people on the street. And the takeaway was unmistakable.
I'm a Democrat, proud Democrat.
Proud Democrat. Do you think that you should be required to show ID to vote?
Yes, I do.
And do you think that you should have to prove you're a United States citizen to register to vote?
Yes.
Do you think that people should have to come in and show ID to prove who they are when they vote?
If you're in the United States, yes. If you're in another country, they got their own rules and regulations, but the United States has a constitution.
Do you think it would be difficult for some people to prove they're a citizen?
Yeah, if you snuck here illegally. If you were born here, you shouldn't have an issue.
I'm born and raised here. You got to show some kind of ID, because if you don't, you're an alien, right?
Everyone's supposed to have an ID. Yep, that's the law. That's the law. I have one right here.
So you have your ID with you?
Yeah, I'm a citizen. See the photo? That's important.
Democrat or a Republican?
Democrat.
It is good that you have to present identification and proof of citizenship in order to vote. It makes sense to me.
While most people we spoke to supported voter ID, we did find somebody that disagreed. Do you think that you need to show an ID in order to vote?
No.
Are you a citizen yet?
I tried doing this year.
The Save America Act requires proof of U.S. citizenship to vote in federal elections, restricts certain mail-in and non-citizen voting practices, and strengthens voter ID and election integrity standards nationwide.
Things like mail-in voting, there's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse because I see the mailers. Sometimes I will get 2 or 3 of them. It's only one of me. Right. And with that, I could cast 3 votes.
It is an extra step once you get married to take that proof of name change, which I had to do to get a real ID. So I've already done it once. So it doesn't really bother me to have to do that again if I were to register to vote.
Would you be surprised to know that it's Democrats that are the ones that don't want to pass the Save America Act, meaning they're the ones that want to allow people to vote without proving they're citizens?
I don't know if I want to believe that.
Senate Democrats will never allow the SAVE Act to pass this chamber.
A lot of people speculate that they want people to vote that are not citizens so that they could win elections. Do you think that there could be truth to that?
Yes, absolutely.
I think they are gaming it to get more illegals to vote if possible. I think that's the agenda. It's been pretty obvious.
What is your message right now to lawmakers in general when it comes to passing legislation to require voters to show that they're a citizen and prove who they are?
I mean, you just got to think about the people and not about yourself. It's called We the People.
I would say pass the bill. It's a layup, really, for both the Democrats and the Republicans to do something that's morally right. 80% of Democrats, registered voter Democrats, believe that they want this as well.
What are they trying to hide? Who's to say that someone is not going to have people from elsewhere vote falsely?
Do you have any messages to Chuck Schumer?
Rethink it.
Now, the question is, will Senate Democrats listen to their own base and vote yes on the Save America Act? Reporting for LINDELLTV in Washington, D.C., I'm Cara Castronova.
Yeah, and you're hearing it straight from the people. Vice President J.D. Vance, speaking in Kentucky yesterday, had this to say, not only about our election integrity, but also the upcoming 2026 midterms.
We certainly want to make elections safe and secure. Number one, because we want to make sure that the will of the voters is actually recognized and respected. But think about this. You know, we've got, I don't know how many people, a lot of people in this room. Let's say for every single person here, an illegal alien shows up and votes in a Michigan election. That isn't just fraudulent, and that isn't just illegal. That steals your right to vote away from you, because then your vote counts for less. If you believe, as I do, that the American people are sovereign in their own country, then you have to believe that their vote should be protected, and the only way to fully protect their vote is to prevent fraudsters from coming and voting in American elections. And what is really at stake in this election in November is fundamentally, we've done so much good, and we've built so much, and we've been able to do a lot for the American people, but the Democrats threatened to take us straight back to where we were just a few short years ago. And we all know the economic statistics. We all know the fact that we felt it in our pockets, that everything from groceries to our home electricity bill was going up at a level that it hadn't gone up in 40 years under Joe Biden. But it's not just that. Because the American dream, my friends, as you all know, it's not just about going out and being able to buy something, as important as that is. It's not just about the economics, the dollars and cents, though of course we demand that our citizens become more prosperous. It's also about peace and security. It's about being safe in your own home. It's about what I think of as a classic American idea that just because you grew up in a poor family like mine doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to walk down the street in safety and security in your own country. And that is what Joe Biden and his leadership and Nancy Pelosi and all these clowns in Washington, that is the thing that they tried to take away the most from us. Where do you think the fentanyl that flooded our streets and killed hundreds of thousands of our citizens came from? It came from Joe Biden's wide open border. Where do you think the highest crime rates, the highest murder rates came from during that administration? They came from the fact that we went to war on the police rather than on the criminals who committed crimes. Where do you think the fact that we had elevated murder rates, not just in our big cities, but in our small towns, because we let in hundreds of thousands of violent criminals into the United States of America? So when I talk about the American dream, I mean, number one, that I want you to have a good job that pays you a good wage, that allows you to put food on the table, but also take a couple of nice vacations every year. But what I also mean is that we need to get the people who are making our cities less safe the hell out of our country and focus on American citizens first.
Yep, those open borders, that happens, and that's why they want them voting. Right now, the Save America Act is officially on the Senate floor, again for debate. That's when they speak, negotiate, and offer any amendments. This phase can stretch the amount of time unknown. Now, the critical next step is a cloture vote requiring 60 votes to overcome a filibuster. Then a final passage vote. Right now, Republicans, again, still do not have the 60 votes. Now to the Pentagon, a lot of updates just from overnight. The president posting this message to America, and check this out. Very surprising here. It says, Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. The United States, he says, knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea that it was going to happen. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this or any of the pertinent facts pertaining to the South Pars attack, and unjustifiably and unfairly attacked a portion of Qatar's LNG gas facility. He goes on to say no more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field, unless, he says, Iran unwisely decides to attack a very innocent, in this case Qatar, in which instance the United States of America, with or without the help of Israel, will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before. Continuing on, the president says, I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction because of the long-term implications that it will have on the future of Iran. But if Qatar's LNG is again attacked, I will not hesitate to do so. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Huge news there. The president saying it was attacked by Israel. The U.S. did not know anything about it. Let's bring in Heather Mullins live at the Pentagon. Heather, a briefing just wrapped up with Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Was this discussed this morning during the press briefing?
It was actually. There was a question that specifically was asked about what happened there at the South Pars gas field in Iran, and specifically, it was just whether or not the U.S. Because Israel sort of has its own objectives and issues with Iran. The U.S. we've had issues with Iran going back 47 years. Obviously, the U.S. has been fighting Iranian proxies in all different countries in the Middle East for a long time, but it begged the question by one of the reporters in the room today is, because Israel has sort of its own objectives, the U.S. is a separate country with its own objectives, how could something like this happen where you have an attack being carried out by Israel without knowledge, according to the president of the United States? So that is just one of the things. Secretary Hegseth did respond saying the U.S. holds the cards. He adamantly asserts that that President Trump is driving the situation over there, that they are successful in limiting Iran's ability to create ballistic missiles as well as nuclear weapons. So he gives a positive outlook on the operations in general. I think we're about 20 days into this whole conflict. And he does stress, too, that they aren't trying to get this into like another never-ending war. That was another question asked by another reporter is, where is the end for this, and how do we make it so that it's not another Iraq or another Syria or, another Middle Eastern conflict that we're dragged into for a long time. And so Secretary Hegseth didn't necessarily give the indication on a timeline of when it's going to end. I think they've been very consistent and making sure that they don't overpromise to the American people, but they also want to keep all options on the table. And so we're sort of limited in what kind of answers we can get as far as like whether or not there's an off-ramp and the time frame of that. As with war in general, there's so much unpredictable stuff that can occur, like what we saw there with these gas fields in Iran. And so we're really just having to take it one day at a time and just continue to ask these questions. But I will say, to the administration's credit, they have opened up this briefing room to not just the new members of the press corps like myself, but they're also inviting in some of the fake news reporters that are yelling questions from the back room. They often get an answer in. And you have to admire the transparency and the fact that they are taking an array of different questions. But Secretary Hegseth did actually address the media in some of the reporting that they've done, because this is sort of, one front of warfare is information warfare. And so he wanted to speak directly to the American people on these issues. So let's take a listen to that clip.
I stand here today speaking to you, the American people, not through filters, not through reporters, not through cable news spin. A dishonest and anti-Trump press will stop at nothing. We know this at this point. To downplay progress, amplify every cost, and call into question every step. Sadly, TDS is in their DNA. They want President Trump to fail. But you, the American people, know better. Yes, there are reporters in front of me, but they are not our audience today. It's you, the good, decent, patriotic American people. You, the hardworking, tax-paying, God-fearing American patriots. The media here, not all of it, but much of it, wants you to think, just 19 days into this conflict, that we're somehow spinning toward an endless abyss or a forever war or a quagmire. Nothing could be further from the truth. Hear it from me, one of hundreds of thousands who fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, who watched previous foolish politicians like Bush, Obama, and Biden squander American credibility. This is not those wars.
So as you can see here, he really just wanted to address the American people directly. And I understand where he's coming from, because we have a legacy media for years now that have covered up so many things, whether it was the January 6th, whether it was the 2020 election. And so they're not going to accurately report something as critical as war, because they just have a history of not accurately reporting. And so I understand his address there. We also, unfortunately, had to
they had to welcome home some of our soldiers that both Secretary Hegseth and General Kane in Dover welcome home fallen soldiers that they gave credit to today, reading off their names and just asking
for prayers from the family. Sorry, I'm used to having a lav mic here, but yeah, they but yeah, so they welcomed home some of our fallen soldiers, asked for prayers for their families. And the other thing that Secretary Hegseth brought up as well was sort of this request that one of the reporters in the room drew attention to for, I believe it was another $200 million the Pentagon is seeking in order to fight this war. So let's take a listen to Secretary Hegseth weighing in on that.
As well, as far as $200 billion, I think that number could move. Obviously, it takes money to kill bad guys. So we're going back to Congress and our folks there to ensure that we're properly funded for what's been done, for what we may have to do in the future, ensure that our ammunition is everything's refilled, and not just refilled, but above and beyond. I mean, President Trump, as he said, rebuilt the military in his first term, didn't think he'd use it as dynamically in his second, but he had. So thank goodness he did that. And an investment like this is meant to say, hey, we'll replace anything that was spent. And now that we're reviving our defense industrial base and rebuilding the arsenal of freedom and cutting deals like our great deputy secretaries here is doing, long lead times on exquisite munitions, we're going to be refilled faster than anyone imagined. And I think, we're also still dealing with the environment that Joe Biden created, which was depleting those stockholds and not sending them to our own military, but to Ukraine, which is every time we reach back and look at any sort of a challenge we have, it goes back to, well, send it to Ukraine. Ultimately, we think this should be these munitions are better spent in our own interests at this point, and this kind of funding bill is going to ensure that we're properly funded going forward.
And now he makes a really great point there that under Joe Biden, right, how much of our American ammunition was sent over to fight Ukraine that could have been, kept right here at home to actually fight our enemies. It's just, it's crazy how much both the Biden administration as well as the Obama administration, when he was in office, did a number on our nuclear warheads, shrinking our militaries. He started moving, I remember up in Massachusetts, where I'm from, he started moving the F-15s that used to be stationed at what was called Otis Air Force Base. He moved those inland to Westfield. And I remember thinking to myself, why would you move your air defense system further inland when the whole point of having them there at that base was to defend off the coastline? And so, whether it was the Obama administration, the Biden administration, it was like constantly we saw policies and decisions that were made to literally weaken our United States military. And so, Secretary Hegseth, to his credit, on this Arsenal of Freedom tour is really going around the country trying to figure out what regulations can we remove, what can we do to try to rebuild at scale and in the shortest amount of time our American military and the defense industrial base. And so, one of the questions, though, that a lot of people are asking is because we're, kind of tied up in this Iranian situation, I was hoping to actually get a question in about China, and really because China, we often hear is aligned with Iran. And so they've been very quiet throughout all of this. I know President Trump was supposed to be meeting with Xi Jinping in a couple of weeks. It's sort of up in the air now, I guess. They're kind of going back and forth, having some disagreements. But I also heard some reports that potentially Chinese naval ships were, positioning themselves around Taiwan. And so I was really hoping to get a question in today about that, but hopefully there'll be another briefing soon where I can get that question in, because, they have been regularly holding these briefings, which is another good thing to their credit.
Absolutely. Very transparent. And I'm glad they're bringing in even the fake news, because everyone needs to report the truth, and they're being as truthful as they can, like you mentioned, with these weekly press briefings, and transparent with the American people. Heather, we only have a couple of minutes left. There are new reports from overnight that the U.S. Has detected unidentified drones above the Washington Army base, where Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth live. Officials have not determined where they came from, but this is very worrisome if, in fact, this is happening. Who's watching our Secretary of War and our Secretary of State who are being housed on an Army base with these unidentified drones?
Yeah, that's definitely alarming, especially given the shutdown here, where we have Democrats like not wanting to fund key agencies like Department of Homeland Security that probably have some, intel and things like that could help track some of these things. I also heard some reports that other members of the Trump administration were moving into secure facilities. They're unconfirmed. I haven't confirmed them personally. But what you're saying with these drones, I mean, that's deeply alarming given the conflict that we're in. I know there's been a lot of questions about sleeper cells, like what threat is here in the homeland because of the fact that Joe Biden and his team allowed illegally upwards of 20 million people from God knows where to come into our country. That poses a huge threat, as well as after the botched Afghanistan withdrawal, we saw untold numbers of people from Afghanistan, some of them probably Iranian proxies, that came into America and now are living amongst our communities. And so time and time again, the previous administration prioritized foreign citizens, prioritized our adversaries over American citizens in the best interest of our military. And so what's going on right now is going to be chaotic because we finally have a president in office that I truly do believe cares about the American military in our country. And, there are a lot of bad actors, even within our own government. We've seen, Tom Homan during his ICE operations talking about FBI leakers and stuff trying to thwart efforts when they were over there in Los Angeles. And so, the monster in the mountain that President Trump has to come up against isn't just in Iran. Sometimes it's in his own backyard right here. All the legal challenges, the lawfare and things like that he's had to go up against. He really has his hands full. So I would just ask everyone to continue to pray for our country and our president.
Yes, absolutely. And again, to our viewers, that's new coming in this morning, these unidentified drones above the Washington Army base where Rubio and Hegseth live. Again, there's reports that while they're trying to investigate where these drones are coming from, they may have to move Rubio and Hegseth. So we'll keep an eye on that throughout the day. Heather, I appreciate you coming on the show today, giving us an update. Thank you for your report.
Thank you, Vanessa.
The lines are long, flights are delayed, TSA isn't getting paid, the frustration in the skies. We'll talk about it when we come back.
Welcome to Vocal, the free speech social app that gives you a platform to amplify your voice. Speak freely, connect boldly, and be part of a growing movement for truth, faith, and freedom. Want to know what's happening right now? The Now Playing feature shows you exactly who's live and what's streaming in real time. Check out the show's feed, a non-stop lineup including LINDELLTV News 24/7, shows and on-demand programming all in one place. Connect with your favorite host and never miss a show. Explore the featured page for quick access to LINDELLTV's top shows. Follow your favorites and watch their newest content flow right into your feed. And when they go live on Vocal, you can join the live chat and be part of the action. Ask questions, share your thoughts, even help shape future shows. Stay informed on issues around securing our elections by following your state's Cause of America account. Join a group and connect on a deeper level, from faith and freedom to the future of our nation. Go to vocal.com or download the app today and be a part of the mission to save our country.
Have you ever noticed how complicated it is to get your medication? When you're not feeling well or you're running low on something, it turns into a whole process. You call the doctor, your appointment's days away, you sit in the waiting room, then you stand in line at the pharmacy, and sometimes they don't even have it. That's the old system. It is slow, it's frustrating, and it doesn't have to be that way. That's why I've been telling you about All Family Pharmacy. My family loves it, and I use them myself. You go online, you choose what you need, you fill out a short medical form, and one of their licensed doctors reviews your request. If it's appropriate, they write up the prescription, and it ships straight to your front door. This is how healthcare should work. If you believe in being prepared like I do, this is one of the smartest moves you can make. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell. Use the code Lindell10 to save 10% today. For the first time ever, we're bringing you MyPillow mattresses and mattress toppers for as low as $99.98. Remember, sleep's all about temperature and pressure points. Whatever sleep needs you have, we have the right technology for you. Like our MyPillow mattress topper, our queen size has over 10,000 individual comfort supports to help relieve your pressure points. And how about our 3-inch Hybrid Plus mattress topper? It's infused with copper and silver to help your body get the restorative sleep it needs. And our MyPillow and Case Coil mattresses, I personally helped develop these mattresses to make sure they have everything needed to give us great sleep. Plus, they're made right here in the USA, and they ship right to your front door absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to get MyPillow mattresses and toppers for as low as $99.98 and free shipping.
A somber ceremony as President Trump, Pete Hegseth, and General Dan Kane arrived at Dover Air Force Base. They attended the dignified transfer of 6 American heroes killed in the crash of a refueling aircraft as part of Operation Epic Fury. One final arrival home. God bless them, and prayers for all of our warfighters. Now to affordable housing in America and trying to live the American dream. Right now, young adults just can't afford to buy a home. The average home price in America right now is right around $415,000, and the income needed to afford it, $127,000. That's just the base. Consider all of the bills that you have on the side. That's just for the base pay for the house. Home ownership is out of reach, and President Trump is trying to fix that. Here's his message to you, the hardworking Americans who are wanting to buy a home.
Today, I'm signing 2 historic executive orders continuing my administration's efforts to help more of our citizens achieve the dream of home ownership. It's called the American Dream. Thanks to our purchase of $200 billion in mortgage bonds, mortgage rates recently reached the lowest level in 5 years. This dramatically reduces monthly payments for new home buyers. The annual cost of the typical new mortgage is down almost $5,000 since I took office. I'm very proud of that. I also signed an executive order to stop Wall Street and large institutional investment firms from buying up all the single-family homes in the scheme to turn them into rentals and make lots of money in doing it. We want America to be a nation of owners, not renters. Today, I'm taking action to help reduce rates even more and make it much easier to build new homes in America. The first executive order is about bringing more community banks back into the mortgage business. 2 decades ago, over 5,000 community banks were offering mortgages. Today, that number has been slashed by more than 50%, largely because of burdensome, unnecessary regulations that radical liberals impose on community lenders for the benefit of their donors on Wall Street and, frankly, for the benefit of themselves. The result was less competition and higher mortgage rates for hardworking Americans like you. That is why, under my order, we will eliminate the thicket of unnecessary rules and restrictions that crippled community banks. They've been hurt so badly. We're bringing them back. When more local banks start offering mortgages again, fees will go down, costs will fall, and home buyers will be able to get a mortgage under the more affordable terms that we're insisting on. The second executive order I'm signing today will help lower construction costs for building new homes so that home builders can offer Americans more affordable options. I'm going to sign them right now. No auto pen, okay? That's my real signature. It's not an auto pen like you had in the past. As part of the Green New Scam, the Biden administration and many state and local governments added endless, ridiculous regulations that raised construction costs very, very substantially. With my order today, we will slash many of these pointless regulations that do nothing for safety and add lots of costs. It's really unfair to the home buyers, and ultimately, they're the ones paying for this disaster. Under the Trump administration, we want to make it possible for every American to live that American dream in a beautiful home, and it's really the one that they pick. It's going to be the apple of their eye. So I just want to thank everybody. Our country is doing really well. It's being thought of all over the world with great respect again, more than maybe it's ever had. Thank you very much. Have a good time.
Now, just yesterday, Fed Chair Jerome Powell didn't make a move on interest rates. They've come down some, but President Trump says it's not enough. He also wants to limit big investors from purchasing up all the homes across the nation. They use them to rent out or for Airbnbs. President Trump wants American families to own those homes. Well, if you're heading to the airport, I'm so sorry. It's a disaster out there. The Democratic partial government shutdown is still well underway, and TSA agents still aren't getting paid. Many aren't showing up to work, causing lines to be backed up, hours-long waits. Flights are delayed, flights are canceled, people are sleeping in airports. And now there's talk that since employment is low, some airports may have to shut down for now. All because the Democrats won't fund DHS. The president posting this, the Democrats' purposeful DHS shutdown is causing chaos at airports. These lunatics are being totally unreasonable in their radical left asks. They are fully to blame and must pay a big price for the good of our country in the midterm elections. Make America great again, he says. Republican Representative Brian Steele says these shutdowns are wrong. We had one just late last year, and now we have another one. He says if Americans aren't getting paid during these shutdowns, neither should Congress.
Last Friday was payday for millions of federal workers. Unfortunately, over 100,000 of those hardworking federal employees did not get paid, but they were still required to show up for work. That's not a problem for lawmakers, of course, who under the Constitution get paid even when there's a shutdown. So while federal workers are required to show up to work and not get paid, members of Congress are, under current law, receiving their paycheck if they don't defer their pay. That's not right, it's not fair, and the Withhold Members' Pay During Shutdown Act fixes it. This bill makes clear your member of Congress will not receive a paycheck if hard-working men and women of the federal government are required to show up for work and not get paid.
So that was in front of his colleagues. He then posted this message for America.
Members of Congress shouldn't be receiving their paycheck when the federal government's shut down. Good news. The committee just passed my bill, the No Pay During Shutdowns Act, that does just that. It says members of Congress won't receive their paycheck if hardworking Americans are required to show up for work and aren't receiving theirs. Right now, TSA agents, for example, are required to show up for work but aren't getting paid. That's not right. That's not fair. I'm excited that my bill just passed committee. We have an opportunity to begin fixing the broken spending process here in Washington, D.C. that drives me and so many Americans beyond frustration. This bill, common sense, simple legislation, members of Congress shouldn't be receiving their pay when the federal government shut down.
100% agree. Why should Congress get paid for playing games at the expense of Americans? Pay our hardworking TSA workers and all of DHS, and if Democrats won't, cut their paychecks too. When we come back, our Allison Steinberg sits down with Congressman Brandon Gill, and the Japan Prime Minister meets with President Trump today. She's in Washington, D.C. All of that and more coming up. You're watching My Mornings with Vanessa.
Talk is cheap when it comes to saving our country. We're not just any cell phone service provider. We're Patriot Mobile. It's not enough to simply talk about values. We live them. defending life, protecting our First and Second Amendments, and celebrating our military and first responder heroes. We're boots on the ground making a difference. We're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider with nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks and 100% U.S.-based customer service. Join Patriot Mobile today and make an impact every time you use your cell phone.
America's founders warned that without knowledge and virtue, no nation can remain free. Yet through the steady infiltration of Marxist ideology, we have been stripped of both, and we are no longer a moral and educated people. To save America, we must spark nothing less than a national renaissance. That's why you need Freedom Talk Magazine, the journal of truth and virtue. We cultivate enlightened thinking and principled living, offering unique insights into the issues and remarkable people defining our world. Sign up today for your free subscription to Freedom Talk Magazine and join the new American Renaissance.
Brandon Gill, talking about the Save America Act. Texas's Congressman Brandon Gill sat down with Allison Steinberg at the Capitol. Here's his take.
Hello everyone, Allison Steinberg here with LINDELLTV. We are joined by Congressman Brandon Gill, who represents Texas's 26th Congressional District. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's just dive into America's favorite topic, the Save America Act. Critical piece of legislation that is currently in the Senate. I would think that it would be of the utmost importance to the Senate to get this passed, seeing as it is being demanded by the president and the American people. But in order to do that, I think we need to get rid of the zombie filibuster, as Mike Lee calls it, and actually enact the talking filibuster. But Leader Thune is seemingly not going to implement that. Why do you think that is? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's a little early to see what he's going to do in the end. They're debating the bill right now. That's sort of the first step. He's filled what's called filling the tree, which is adding a bunch of Republican amendments to this to prolong debate. That could morph pretty quickly into what is effectively a talking filibuster. But again, it's too early to tell. Okay. But to your point, this is the most important piece of legislation we have in front of us right now. This is all Republican voters care about. It's all I hear about whenever I go back home. It's all, I mean, you hear about this across the country, across the board. Yeah. And this is something that the vast majority of voters, Republicans or Democrats, want. So I think that it is imperative that we get this across the finish line in the Senate. And I don't really care how. I think the talking filibuster is the best way to do that, to your point. But we just got to get this thing to the president's desk.
It's absolutely critical. I mean, at least 85% of Americans want this done.
Yeah.
Large percentage of Democrats, too, despite what, Democrats in Congress will tell you, right? They pretend like it's a non-issue. But assuming this doesn't get passed, I think there's a growing effort amongst House Republicans, yourself included, who are now saying that you won't take up any new bills that come in from the Senate, just to really keep the pressure on. Is this true? How many Republicans are sort of on board with this? And is this something Mike Johnson supports?
You know, so what I've said publicly, and I've spoken to leadership about this privately as well, is that I'm not going to vote for any Senate bill until the Senate gets the Save America Act passed. So we had a Senate bill that came to the floor today. I was pretty vocal that I didn't think it should even be brought for a vote on the House floor, but it was. We had about 40 Republicans or so who voted against that for the same reason, I think, largely because we want to see the Save America Act get passed out of the Senate. So I'm going to continue that position. We've got a lot of big votes coming up next week, and we'll see where that goes. But I think that more and more people are realizing this is a key vote for us. This is a big deal for us, and it's going to be a big deal in November, too, whenever we go back to voters and ask them to vote for us again so that we can keep the control of the House. We don't want Democrats to take control of that. That would be disastrous for them to get control of the House. We don't want that to happen, and we need to give our voters something to get excited about, and I think this is it.
I think it's critical, and I don't see how we win another election if we don't do it. So it would be great if we could get it done. And that bill that you spoke about that you had to vote on today was something having to do with DEI nonsense?
You know, it's interesting because this was a bill that we passed, a similar bill out of the House via voice vote several months ago, and the Senate changed some things in it and then sent it back to us. But part of what it did was reauthorize a program that states that its purpose is essentially has a DEI component to it, which is something I called out today.
Wow.
Again, this is something I probably wouldn't have voted for the bill anyways. And I don't think it's another bill I don't think we should have brought to the floor, at least as it was written, even apart from this, from our efforts with the Save America Act. So, you know, it's Republicans now, I think, have to keep our eye on the ball.
Yes.
And have to realize what is important right now to voters and what is not. And right now, the Save America Act is important. And SBA reform bills, however meritorious other portions of that bill may have been, is not something that's important.
No.
What's important is ensuring that illegal aliens aren't voting in our elections.
I would think we could all agree on that.
And it's such a black and white
Right,
thing. This
it
is
really
such a
is.
simple concept.
Yes.
And I think that's where this frustration is.
Yeah.
Where we control the House, we control the Senate, we have the presidency. President Trump wants this bill very badly. He's made that clear.
Right.
The American people want this bill. Why can't we get it done? And I hope the Senate can.
Yeah, I sure hope so too. But if not, there is another alternative I wanted to ask you about. We've heard from members like Anna Paulina Luna who are talking about attaching the Save America Act to the FISA Reauthorization Act. This is a must-pass piece of legislation. But we heard today actually from Speaker Johnson that he's moving forward with a clean extension of FISA. Do you foresee this being a strong tactic, and can we expect reforms to be made to this bill?
Well, first of all, I'm open to anything that would get the Save America Act across the finish line. We're still thinking through and strategizing on that candidly as to what is the best path forward from here. And perhaps it is to attach that to FISA, but that's something we're still working through. There are some other bills. There's a housing bill that the Senate would really like to get passed. Maybe that's another angle. There are a few different things that we can look at. Again, I'm open to anything. I want to make sure that we've got a real path to get this thing done, though.
Absolutely. Well, we're rooting hard for the Senate. Hopefully they do the right thing. But another issue that is currently plaguing the American people, unfortunately, is the fact that DHS is still not funded, thanks to Democrats. Many people are now saying that members of Congress should be forced to go wait in the ever-growing TSA lines, just like everyone else is having to. Or maybe, I don't know, Democrats should have to go without paychecks, like you know, government employees are having to endure. How do we break this impasse and actually get DHS back up and running?
Yeah, you know, I think it was my friend Mark Meadows who pointed out, to your point, that you know, just make some of these Democrats wait in a 2-hour-long TSA line, and they'll come to their senses really quickly. But you know, remember, we're doing this in or Democrats are doing this in a context where we've had multiple terrorist attacks just in the past 2 weeks within the United States, when we're in a conflict with Iran. Of all times, now is not the time to be holding up a DHS funding bill purely for political gain, which is what the Democrats, they think that this is a strategy for them to play to a far left base during a Democrat primary season to show that they're, you know, sticking it to President Trump. And in the process, they're making the country significantly less safe for the American people. So I think most people can see this has gone far too long. It's way too far, and it's just disgusting.
It really is disgusting. And, you know, we heard last time around during the last government shutdown that Democrats have no problem using the American people as leverage, as Whip Clark put it, to get their agenda across. So it's really upsetting, and it's sad that so many Americans have to suffer in the process. We are now hearing that Democrat leadership is planning to unveil a discharge petition on legislation that would fund most of DHS, like, you know, TSA, FEMA, Coast Guard, CISA, but they're still wanting to leave out ICE and CBP. Do you think this is a good strategy? Would you support that?
Absolutely not. I mean, what this really amounts to is defund the police. It's that Democrats want to fund specific things, but not fund immigration enforcement, which is something that the American people voted for resoundingly last election cycle. We don't want criminal illegal aliens terrorizing the American people. And that's what the great work that ICE and the DHS is doing. So we're not going to do anything that's going to interfere with that.
Very good. Glad to hear that. Hopefully we can break the impasse soon and get everything back up and running. These shutdowns are just ruthless. But I want to talk about those 4 Islamic terror attacks you just mentioned. Very unfortunate. Interestingly enough, though, all of the terror attacks were done by naturalized citizens. I know you've been very outspoken about the Islamification of America. This is a big issue, specifically in your state of Texas. As dangerous as the millions of illegals are that were let in by the Biden regime, don't you think we need to have a serious look at legal immigration that's happening here in America, giving citizenship to some of these people?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have no obligation to let somebody into our country, and in particular, give them citizenship if they want to kill us. I mean, I think that's a pretty basic concept that, again, everybody agrees with, including Democrat voters, at least, even if their politicians don't. We've got a huge illegal immigration problem in the country. You know, whenever you take a step back and you realize that multiple of these terrorist attacks came from naturalized people that we chose to give citizenship to. You realize there's a serious rot in our system, in our legal immigration system, that needs to be completely transformed. My view is that legal immigration needs to be drastically reduced. And I think that we need to be choosing who comes into the country, if anybody at all. You know, the purpose of our legal immigration system is to serve the American people. It's to benefit us. We don't have any obligation to allow anybody into our country. And we shouldn't if it doesn't. And it certainly does not benefit us in any way to allow terrorists to come into our country, to allow somebody who's going to then work with ISIS after coming into America, or to allow people who adhere to cultures or ideologies that are completely unassimilable into American public life.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, I have to ask you, because you are on the House Oversight Committee, what is your message to Americans who are concerned, particularly that radical Islamists like Ilhan Omar are now even infiltrating the United States Congress? I mean, this is just unprecedented. Many Americans feel like nothing is being done on that front. What more can Republicans do to address, the alleged fraudulent immigration status regarding Ilhan Omar?
Well, that's the thing, is that all of this is an immigration issue at root. Radical Islam, Islamic terrorism did not come into the United States on the Mayflower. It is largely alien to American history. It's something we really imported over the last few decades. A lot of it has come after 9/11, actually. I have a lot of people ask, how in the world can somebody like Ilhan Omar get elected to Congress? The reality is because we've imported a massive Somali population that votes for her, that is basically a parallel society within America that speaks a different language, adheres to different cultural norms than we do, and elected one of their own, who is Ilhan Omar. That's why we're in this position. And that this is the kind of idiotic immigration policy that we're fighting to stop right now.
And what do you think the way forward is? I know we're running out of time. A last question. How do we reform this problem and get things back on track here in America?
Yeah, I think it's drastically reducing legal immigration. I think it is completely getting rid of things like the diversity country lottery, getting rid entirely of chain migration. I mean, the idea that you can come in and then bring in your cousin and your cousin's cousin and your cousin's wife and their children limitlessly is insane. So getting rid of that, most of the visa programs that we have now could probably be done away with outright. And if we do allow somebody to come into the country, I think it should be extraordinarily limited, and it should be on our terms. And we should ensure that they adhere to an ideology that's compatible with the American Constitution. And then I think that we got to start reevaluating the people who have been given naturalized citizenship over the past decade or so, and ensure that they aren't terrorists or terrorist sympathizers, and ensure that they actually adhere to American culture. And if they don't, then I think that we should look at ways that we can legally denaturalize them.
Absolutely, and there are lots of good bills in the works that address these very issues. Hopefully we can get them all done and make some really good progress here.
Exactly.
Congressman Brandon Gale, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, let's take a look quickly at opening bell on Wall Street. Numbers from MarketWatch.com. The Dow, S&P 500, NASDAQ all still down this morning. Hopefully we'll get a rebound soon. But as we mentioned yesterday, the market's been choppy due to Operation Epic Fury. Looking at your news to go as you start your day, the Prime Minister of Japan is in Washington, D.C. today. She will be having meetings with President Trump, and they'll also celebrate America's 250th birthday. President Trump also calling for Tina Peters to be freed yet again. She is the Mesa County, Colorado clerk jailed over questioning our elections. He posted this: "Free Tina Peters, a 73-year-old woman with cancer, given a 9-year death sentence in a Colorado prison by a Democrat governor, Jared Polis, and a corrupt political machine for exposing fraud by the Democrats during the 2020 presidential election. Again, free Tina Peters." Now, this is the first time we've heard that Tina has cancer. We knew her health was declining. Now confirmed, she has cancer. So pray for Tina. Pray for her health, and we need to free Tina Peters. Delilah's Law, named after the little girl President Trump introduced at the State of the Union, has passed out of committee. Delilah was injured by a foreign truck driver, injuries that she will have to deal with for the rest of her life. Now, if it becomes law, truck drivers will be legally required to know English. So good news that it is moving forward. Mark your calendar. The countdown is on for CPAC 2026, one of my favorite events of the year. We are now 1 week away from the Conservative Political Action Conference in Grapevine, Texas. Join me and Mike Lindell for live coverage all throughout the day next Thursday and Friday right here on LINDELLTV. Some of the biggest names in the movement will be there. If you're in Texas or surrounding areas, make sure you join us. It's going to be a great time. It is every single year. We'll have all the coverage for you right here from behind the scenes. Again, that is on Thursday and Friday of next week. We leave you today in prayer. Our daily Bible verse comes from the book of John. The Bible says this: "Beloved, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. The ones who do good is of God. The one who does evil has not seen God." So be careful who you hang out with. Make sure you're hanging around the right crowds and the people who live by the word. A reminder, you can follow me on social media. I am on X, Vocal, Truth Social, Instagram, and YouTube. We are live on YouTube every day, so go ahead and give my channel a subscription. And that'll do it for us here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow. Have a good day, America.
Welcome to Vocal, the free speech social app that gives you a platform to amplify your voice. Speak freely, connect boldly, and be part of a growing movement for truth, faith, and freedom. Want to know what's happening right now? The Now Playing feature shows you exactly who's live and what's streaming in real time. Check out the show's feed, a non-stop lineup including LINDELLTV News 24/7, shows and on-demand programming all in one place. Connect with your favorite host and never miss a show. Explore the featured page for quick access to LINDELLTV's top shows. Follow your favorites and watch their newest content flow right into your feed. And when they go live on Vocal, you can join the live chat and be part of the action. Ask questions, share your thoughts, even help shape future shows. Stay informed on issues around securing our elections by following your state's Cause of America account. Join a group and connect on a deeper level, from faith and freedom to the future of our nation. Go to vocal.com or download the app today and be a part of the mission to save